Greetings from Las Vegas and welcome to the EOG Sports Hour. John Kelly with you on a Wednesday night. Glad to be representing EOG. The three letters stand for Eye on Gaming. EOG.com, a website dedicated to the hearts and minds of sports bettors everywhere. King Revolver serves as our head moderator. Boat, and Trip are the contest coordinators. We've had good shows this week. Mike Corrigan Monday night, Computer Bob last night. Tonight, EdTheStatMan joins us from the Philadelphia area. Ed graduated from LaSalle University in 1977, where he studied mathematics. He's in the financial industry now, and a dedicated sports bettor is Ed. If you heard him on last week's shows, he talked about key numbers in the NFL. He talked about an angle in week one of the preseason that he wanted to use, a cluster play, if you will. That's what he called it. He said he's going to play all the overs week one of the NFL preseason. That didn't work out too well. We'll ask him about that. And he also talked about his website, EdTheStatMan.com, and his Twitter handle, at EdTheStatMan. What I like about Ed is two things. One, his passion for the topic. You hear him speak about sports and sports betting. You can tell he's very enthusiastic about the topic. And two is his preparation. He's got both the passion and the preparation, which makes him an outstanding radio guest. Ed, good evening and welcome to the program.
Hey, John. How you doing?
Good to have you here again, Ed. Off of a rough week in preseason football. You told us last week you had a cluster play. You were going to play all the overs, and my numbers show that against closing numbers, NFL preseason overs, week one, if you include the Hall of Fame game, went 4-12-1 against the spread. Ed, good thing you were only betting a quarter unit on each play.
Yeah, I mean, it was when I sum everything up here, I'm, of course, not happy with the results, but I'm still kind of happy with my theory, with my studies, and with my plays, because one of my shortcomings in my game is understanding the market, reading the market, and trying to get out ahead of the market. And that was one of the problems I had when I had a losing year last year, is that I kind of basically would prepare too much. And with the internet now and with the information exchange being at a kind of the information exchange at a rate of speed of light or a speed of Twitter or whatever you want to call it, the market moves very fast, and one of my goals this year was to get out ahead of the market. So this theory that I had in week one of the preseason, I was way out ahead of the market in pretty much every game, and I beat the totals pretty bad, with the over theory, thinking that with the way these games have been played previously, especially in 2013, in the preseason and in the regular season, that the overs were coming out of a pretty high clip, and then all we heard about was with regards to more penalties being called against the defense this year, and they were going to experiment with that in the preseason. And I figured that the lines were pretty low with regards to where they probably should be, and so I bet all the overs early. I beat a lot of the lines at 12. Of the lines went higher, 4 of the lines remained the same. Only one line went lower from where I bet it at the open. That was the Tampa Bay-Jacksonville game. And so with regards to the results, were pretty disappointing, but with regards to me trying to read the market and trying to get out ahead of the market, I'm actually pretty happy with that aspect of it. A lot of people out there had the same concept I did, but I guess one of the things that I probably could have done better in my takeaway is to, since I was basically playing the market at this time, to maybe come back, and 37 is the most common number in the NFL preseason. It's also the most common number in the regular season, and probably 8 of these games hit the 37. They started out lower than 37 and either hit it or crossed over. I probably should have came back and played some unders once it did that. And one of the games actually did land 37 with regards to the Seattle-Denver game. That landed 37. It closed, I think, 37.5. Where it opened 37, so I could have got a one-sided, shot at that one. And that would have kind of improved my records. But I mean, it was a good lesson learned. And if one of my goals in 2014 is to play early and get out ahead of the market and see where we stand. So I'm happy with that, not happy with the results. So mixed feelings on that. I do have some concerning trends, though, with regards to what happened in week one and watching the games. First, the games were brutal to watch because there were so many penalties being called. And with regards to more penalties being called, that was true, but it's just that it kind of bogged down the flow of the game, and that's that's what gave the teams problems with trying to score. But looking at Week 1 preseason this year compared to last year in the Week 1 preseason, there were 65 and a half plays run per game during Week 1 of the preseason. And if you look at the regular season, the average was 65 plays per game. So there was actually a higher pace in Week 1 of the preseason last year. This year, that number dropped all the way down to 61.8 plays. So there was an average of 4 less plays per game in the Week 1 of the 2014 preseason compared to last year, and all of those plays were passing plays. The running plays actually went up by about a half a running play per game, while the passing plays went down by over 4, almost 5 passing plays per game. So with regards to that, the one of the things I noticed as I was watching all the games is that a lot of these teams really did focus on running the ball more. There could have been one of two things. A lot of the key gunslingers were out. There was no Breeze, no Tom Brady. That could have hurt it. But then with regards to the penalties, those plays don't count as plays with regards to all the defensive holding penalties. So that may have affected our numbers a little bit. However, one of the things I looked at with regards to the coaching, now with all these penalties being called, and you're going up against elite quarterbacks, these elite quarterbacks are going to be throwing the ball all over the field. Now, if you're a team like Minnesota, a team like Houston, a team like another team in there, Tampa Bay, you don't have an elite quarterback. The only way you're going to be able to compete in the NFL this year is to run the football. And even a lot of the better teams were focusing on running the football, especially the San Diego Chargers. They were running the football all over Dallas. So a lot of these teams, I think, are going to compete against these high-profile quarterbacks. I'm going to keep an eye on this trend in the preseason and see what these teams are running the football more than they were last year. And again, going back to our NBA of controlling clock and controlling the possessions, it's the same thing here in the NFL. When a team plays fast without the quality of players, it's hard for them to keep pace. So if you don't have the higher quality players, or especially the high quality quarterback in the NFL, you're going to need to control clock and control possession and convert your scoring opportunities for you to have a chance to compete this year in the NFL. So it's definitely a trend that I took out of the muck of a terrible week. It's one of the trends I'm going to look forward to the rest of the preseason and see if we can convert this maybe into some regular season winners.
Lessons learned from Ed the Statman as he gives us the autopsy on Week 1 in the NFL preseason. It wasn't a death march, though, in this respect, Ed. I mentioned your quarter-unit plays on these NFL preseason totals. Lucky you didn't really go swinging with your cluster play. Some would call it a cluster you-know-what.
Yeah.
How about this strategy, Ed? Next time the cluster play comes up, no matter the sport, from a gambling standpoint, how about locking some of these plays up into parlays, where if your theory is right, you should be able to connect on a lot of wagers. Instead of playing quarter-unit wagers on each one, instead try to hit some two-teamers, three-teamers, considering that if you're right with the big-picture approach, you might be able to connect the dots on some parlays.
That's a good idea. I never really thought of it that way. I would have to go to the drawing board and do the calculations and see if it's worth it.
Right.
But then again,
of course, it would help your. Would it help your buyback a little bit too? Put you in position to hedge, like you said. Some of those numbers moved, so you'd be in on a parlay price with some good numbers early in the week, and maybe you could come back over the top later in the week.
It's definitely a possibility to look into going forward. The bottom line here is I ended up between a couple side bets that I also had a hard time with. I ended up losing 4.2 units this week in the NFL, and I will guarantee you that will definitely happen at least once, twice, maybe 3 times, that I'll have a losing week of -4 units this year in football. So it's really not that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things.
I had a losing night tonight in baseball. My featured selection, the L.A. Dodgers over the Atlanta Braves, didn't work out. The Braves beat the Dodgers 3-2. Yasiel Puig, 4 at-bats and 4 strikeouts. He couldn't handle the Santana slider, and he was overmatched with the Kimbrel 98-mile-an-hour fastball. Dodgers teased me in the 9th inning, loaded the bases with 1 out. Unfortunately, Matt Kemp hit into a game-ending 4-6-3 double play. That's it, and that's all. And the Dodgers a loser for the first time this year to the Atlanta Braves. The Dodgers had defeated the Braves 5 previous meetings. I will have a selection in the Dodgers-Braves matinee game for tomorrow. EdTheStatMan is going to go on record with a couple of plays as well. He's got a lot of talking to do tonight because he's going to preview 24 NFL teams for us. He'll give us a regular season win total dealing with a team, a high-profile team in the AFC. He'll also go on record with a play in tomorrow's preseason game between the Chicago Bears and the Jacksonville Jaguars. I've got some Big Ten notes in front of me, but I'll save those for tomorrow. I want to talk about both Ohio State and Michigan State. I did hear one bit of news in the Big Ten tonight. Venric Mark, outstanding running back for the Northwestern Wildcats. He will transfer. He will not be a part of Pat Fitzgerald's team. He was injured for most of last year, and he was to be a key member of that offensive team for Pat Fitzgerald, but he's a no-go this year for the Northwestern Wildcats. One other note I'll mention before we get to our NFL preview. Had a chance this weekend to meet Bob Sheridan. For those who are familiar with the sport of boxing, you know Colonel Bob Sheridan. They call him the voice of boxing. He's called over 10,000 fights, nearly 1,000 world title fights. He called the Rumble in the Jungle and also the Thrilla in Manila. He's the one who provided me with that note about passion and preparation that Ed the Statman brings us. He doesn't know Ed, but he says that's what makes a good announcer or analyst. You've got to have passion for the topic, and you've got to be prepared for the assignment. EdTheStatMan.com is Ed's website. Again, his Twitter handle is @EdTheStatMan. You got a nice compliment. Was it today or the other day, Ed, from Fezzik, who reads your site?
Yeah, I think it was today, yes. Fezzik had me a pretty good compliment on Twitter. I've spoken with him a few times through email exchanges over the past year. I know he gets a lot of heat on the website for being a tout, but I've never really had a problem with him. He's exchanged some information with me. I exchanged some with him, and it's a pretty decent relationship I think I have with him. With regards to touts, I mean, I know a lot of people really get up in arms, but to me, it doesn't matter to me how another man makes a living, as the old Godfather quote says. And, with regards to that tout industry, you're always going to have new people, turning 18, 19, 20, 21 years old every year and getting into the arena of sports betting. And the young and naive will always attempt it. I attempted it. I used to be 18 years old, calling Stu the Source Finder, just more curiosity than anything. And of course, the first time I called, I ended up getting like 20 winners out of like 21 picks, and I thought it was like the greatest thing in the world. And I had the best 4 weeks of my young life at that time. And then I realized, how that works. I just happened to be getting the 20 winners. I just happened to get lucky on the right side of 20 winners, and I guess the other side of the people that were calling were getting 20 losers. And so that all eventually evens out at the end. And it was one of the better lessons I learned in my lifetime with regards to
Ed, if I may, what was the most money you ever forked over to Stu Feiner?
I guess it was probably, I would say, they start out low. It's like, the $25, $50, and then, they kind of gradually increase it as you go. And, after, I think, it was like 3 straight weeks of like 5-0 at that point. I was about 18 years old, and, I'm up a lot of money, and I think I shelled out the most was like $1,500. And I sent over, $1,500 for the following week's plays, and I didn't care because I was making a killing. As fast as the money was coming in, I was, going to strip clubs and out to eat, and I wasn't making it rain. I was making it hurricane in them places, and having a great time being a kingpin. And looking back on it, it was actually pretty fun. And then the losers start piling up after the losers, and then it was time to pay the debts, and that wasn't a happy sight. Happy.
Yeah,
time.
rarely a happy ending with those situations, especially with Stu Feiner. Yeah, it's, I have no problem with the tout business either, Ed, in this respect, as long as it's practiced properly. We know guys do it right. There are some gold standards out there. I think of Ed Golden at Right Angle Sports, what he does in terms of his accountability and all. A lot of people like Ed Golden, and it's hard to be liked in the sports advisory business, too. What a dirty business it is. The problem I have with it, that is how it's practiced. It's not that it's there. It'll always be there, but how it's practiced, especially if there's some intellectual dishonesty at play. And I don't like it when the smart guys cross the line. They know better. Not to say that Stu Feiner, Wayne Root, those guys who just have no conscience and don't care about the situation. But it's a shame when guys who have a lot to contribute to the sports betting landscape cross the line.
Yeah, I mean, I work in my day job is in the finance firm and financial industry, and when it comes to fleecing people for money, it kind of makes the tout industry look like a puppy show. So, one of my issues with the tout industry is the sports book promotion. If that's just from a moral standpoint, that's a conflict of interest. If you're supposed to be helping people, and then you're turning around and burning the candle at both ends there, and it's kind of like that's one thing that kind of rubs me the wrong way. So I get the people that come to my site all the time and say, "Go play for our sports book on your site," and I turn it down. I'm not interested. There's I don't even know what the legal ramifications are, since it's not legal in most of the United States, and so I kind of stay away from that. With regards to dealing with touts, I have touts signed up to my site, and they use my stats and my trends and my information for their analysis and for their podcast and for their videos, and it doesn't even bother me. That's the reason it's for. It's kind of my website is more of like a platform for me to network and to meet other like-minded people that want to handicap. And to me, it's more about the handicap and the bet than anything else. And with regards to the website, it doesn't matter to me that touts have signed up for my site and use my information. That's what it's for, and that's why I have a premium content subscription, because it's better than doing all that work, putting it on a forum for free, and just having them take it anyway and use it. So at least I'm getting a little bit something out of it, and most importantly, I'm getting a platform to network.
Yeah, Ed has an interesting business model at EdTheStatMan.com. You can go to that website, see all of his plays for free, follow him on Twitter at EdTheStatMan. You'll get every one of his selections for free. But if you want to hear the rationale, the analysis behind the play, that's where the fee comes in at $19.99 a month. I like that. The model is interesting. It's different, Ed. Plays are free, but if you want to hear how I got to the play, that'll cost you money. That's a little bit different.
Yeah, I don't do it for every play, just for kind of like my bigger plays. I'll put the analysis out there, but I also have, most importantly, the guys like the tools, the betting trends, the betting systems, the articles about the key numbers. Right now I have an interesting article up there with regards to how teams fare in new stadiums in the preseason, and that comes up this weekend with San Francisco and Denver. San Francisco opens up a new stadium, and so it's just kind of like the way I look at things, and I'll put it up there, and it's for people to digest. And I know a lot of there's a lot of handicappers out there that are not located in Vegas that are hobbyists, and they absolutely love doing it also, and they're weekend warriors, and they're able to go on the website and get a bunch of the stats, a bunch of the trends, follow it themselves to be able to make an informed opinion on their own. And like I said, I'm never really pushed my picks or plays down people's throats. I mean, that's just my opinion with regards to what I like. And you still get the messages like, "Oh my God, your play sucked this weekend," and and I played all your overs plays and it was just terrible and you suck. You still get them emails, but it's kind of like, I'm not really charging you for that. I'm just providing you with my thoughts and opinions. And everybody bets with their own money. I'm not betting with your money. You're not betting with my money. So there's no whining, no crying. Just do your research and make your informed opinion. That's what I'm doing.
You mentioned the key numbers, the most common margins of victory in the NFL. You told us last Wednesday 3, 7, 10, 6, and 4 in that order. 3, 7, 10, 6, 4. Key numbers in college football. Bobby the Owl had this question, Ed. What are the key numbers in college football?
In college football, again, the most common number that comes out is 3. But, however, in college football, you have 120-plus teams. You have very drastic talent differential. So you're going to have a lot wider spread margins or a lot wider outcome margins. And with regards to the outcome of the game. So when I look at college football key numbers, first, in the NFL, I looked at when the addition of the 2-point conversion happened, and I did my study there. With regards to the college football numbers, I kind of went back and said, what was the most important rule change that affected outcomes of games? And that's where I was going to start my study from. In college football, I did it since 1996, which was with the addition of the overtime period. And I think that would have definitely changed the way the outcome is, because now teams are not playing for the ties or going for 2 to try to win in certain situations. You can play for the tie and then go to overtime and take your chances there. So since 1996, the 3 has come out the majority of the times, but unlike the NFL where the 3 comes out 15.7% of the times, in college football the 3 comes out 9.2% of the times. So it's 6.5% times less in college football than it does in pro football. The second key number, again, is the 7 in college football. The 7 comes out about 7.1% of the time. And my argument in college football is that the 3 and the 7 are the really only key numbers, because after that, the rest of the numbers come out less than 4.2% of the times, which is over 1 in 20 games. And the way I look at key numbers is if it comes out 5% of the time or greater, 1 in 20 games, then I think it has some merit. But if you want a complete list of the college football numbers, of course, it's the 3, the 7, and that's followed by the 10 and the 14. They come out 3rd and 4th most amount of times, but again, the drop-off is drastically different with regards to the percentage of times that comes out.
He's a 1997 graduate of LaSalle University. He's our featured guest on tonight's program. Ed the Statman is here. We'll talk NFL football on the other side of the break. You're listening to the EOG Sports Hour.
There's no such thing as a sure thing, unless you're talking about Ion Gaming. Ion Gaming is a website dedicated to the hearts and minds of sports bettors everywhere. If you're looking for smart, sophisticated sports handicapping information and insight,
go to EOG.com.
If you're looking for the latest news on the ever-changing landscape of Nevada's race and sportsbook industry,
go to EOG.com.
If you're looking for the most recent developments involving the worldwide sports betting scene with an emphasis on the leading sports books in San Jose, Costa Rica,
go to EOG.com.
And finally, if you're looking to join an online community of sports gamblers where registration is free and the information is priceless,
go to EOG.com.
You get the idea. Why gamble on other sports betting websites when Ion Gaming is a sure thing?
And I love a sure thing.
Hi, this is Rick Alec, president of Sports Options. Sports Options is a sports information tool designed to give sports bettors of all types the necessary edge needed to improve their bottom line. With Sports Options, you'll never lay a bad number again. We provide you with live odds from the leading sports books in the world, from Costa Rica to Curacao, London to Las Vegas, and everywhere in between. Sports Options also provides the fastest and most accurate injury information, lightning-quick score updates, and game analysis from 30-year handicapping veteran Mark Simons. We offer affordable services for players of all levels, starting at just $99 per month. To see which service best fits your needs, you can take advantage of our 7-day free trial. No credit card is needed. Just go to www.sportsoptions.com and click on the free trial link. I'm confident you'll be impressed with our product, and you'll find it the most complete and comprehensive on the market. In fact, if you don't like Sports Options after 30 days, we'll refund you 100% of your subscription costs, no questions asked. Go to sportsoptions.com for all the details or call 702-835-1743, and one of our friendly customer service representatives will be happy to help you. Sports Options, information you can bet on.
And we are back, the EOG Sports Hour. John Kelly with you on a Wednesday night featuring Ed the Statman. Ed is going to be here every Wednesday in the month of August. He was here last Wednesday and talked about both the NFC East and NFC North. Tonight we'll cover the NFC South and NFC West and see how far we get with the AFC teams. Tomorrow night's program to feature Las Vegas sports bettor Paul McDonald. Paulie Mack will be here with 10 selections. He says he's got 5 plays at the opening weekend of college football action and 5 plays for us week 1 in the NFL. So have pen and paper ready. 10 plays tomorrow night from Paulie Mack. Friday night we'll finish up the week with Eric Strasser, our resident MLB expert. Eric will look at the Saturday Major League Baseball card. We'll also visit with Chi-Town Joe. He's a horse racing guy. He'll be at the Arlington Million on Saturday. He'll preview the $1 Million race for us from suburban Chicago on Friday night. Ed the Statman, let's talk NFC South football. The New Orleans Saints, the odds-on favorite to win that division. The coach-quarterback combination is special. Sean Payton and Drew Brees. I was surprised to see that Drew Brees is already 35 years old, but what a difference a coach makes for the New Orleans Saints. And Saints with Payton and Saints without Payton were 2 different teams.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that 1 year where they had the suspensions to the coaches, that was, and I mean, you kind of have to throw that year out and just completely take that year off the record. But the NFC South, this is the only division in the NFL that has not had a repeat winner ever since the realignment in 2002. And so the Carolina Panthers were the division champs last year, and I think that trend is going to hold up this year because the Saints are the odds-on favorite, and I think that they will win the NFC South. But basically, looking down the schedule is the key part here. You know, dome team going away is usually the tough part, you know, with their schedule, and you know, it always rears its ugly head in the playoffs. And where they eked out a win last year at Philadelphia on a last-second field goal before losing at Seattle. But this year, they may have the easiest away schedule in the NFL. I mean, on the road, they have a grand total of 1 playoff team, which is the Carolina Panthers, a division game. The rest of their non-division away slate, you know, features the Browns, the Cowboys, the Lions, Steelers, and Bears. None of those teams even made the playoffs last year. So all of their tougher games are going to be at home against the non-division, which includes the Packers, 49ers, and, you know, the Bengals. So they get all their playoff teams at home and all the non-playoff teams from last year on the schedule away. So I think that's going to not only propel them to the playoffs, but a potential number 1 seed in the NFC because of the difficulty of the NFC West schedule. Those teams are going to be kind of beating up on each other all year, and it's going to kind of suppress their win totals a little bit. So, I mean, if we can bet on the teams that have the best record in the NFC South, it'll probably come between the Saints and Green Bay, and with the way the Saints schedule is set up, I would probably look at New Orleans there to finish with the best record in the NFC.
Mm-hmm. Best record in the NFC. Our friend Eric Austin was here last week. He said that keep an eye on the Tampa Bay Bucks and Lovie Smith. What do you think about the Bucks this year?
You can never discount Tampa. You can never discount Lovie Smith. This guy got fired after winning 10 games in Chicago, and that team turned around and won 8 games last year with a new coach, and the defense declined by 100 yards. So that's what you're going to get out of Lovie Smith. You're going to get a quality defense, and the Buccaneers also have a lot of quality players on defense, but again, the offense, lack of playmakers probably on offense, no real star at quarterback. I think it's going to end up probably being McCown as the starter. And so when I look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, again, this is going to be one of those teams. If I look to play them this year, I think they're going to be underrated early because they're going to have a good defense. And if you follow Lovie Smith offenses, they're going to be grinding out offenses. So I would look to play this team if they take a lot of points in certain situations, and I'd also look to play them under in their games this year with that, with a pretty decent defense and concentrating on the running game. And that'll be one of those teams that try to counteract all these high-flying offenses by controlling the clock.
The NFC West, Ed, at one point in time, not that long ago, it was the punching bag of the league. Now it's the heavyweight. I think it's the best division in football, hands down. It's getting deep, too, what with the Cardinals and Rams improving their teams. Cardinals had an excellent season last year, didn't make the playoffs, but won 10 games. Seahawks, Niners, Cardinals, and Rams. I think that division also features the four best coaches around. If you graded the coaches of each division, I think the NFC West would grade out high, what with Pete Carroll, Jim Harbaugh, Bruce Arians, and Jeff Fisher.
Yeah, and it's amazing. I mean, it wasn't just a few years ago that the division winner in the NFC West had a losing record. I think Seattle won the division at 7-9, and
yes.
Now all of a sudden, the Cardinals are not making the playoffs with 10 wins, and the Rams are your last place team at 7-9. But going into this year, again, product of schedule. The NFL puts that canned schedule out, that schedule formula, which I like a lot because it makes it a lot easier to handicap. And the non-conference NFC West faces the AFC West, which is probably the second best division in football and easily the best division in the AFC. And they sent 3 teams to the playoffs last year. So not only do the AFC West teams get to beat up on each other all year, they're going to have to play the toughest division in the AFC. And I think that's going to suppress a lot of win totals for all of these teams involved during the season. But counterintuitive, when you get to the playoffs, these teams are going to be well tested when they get to the playoffs and going against some of the teams from the other divisions. With regards to division winner, I mean, again, I don't think Arizona is ready to compete with San Francisco and Seattle simply because of the quarterback situation. I still think that the best quarterbacks are in Seattle and in San Francisco. A lot of people are talking about the Rams defense, but again, Bradford, this is his make or break year with St. Louis. And the coaches are complete studs, all 4 of them. And look at Arizona just over this past weekend, they won 32-0. And really, I mean, Bruce Arians was the coach of Temple not a long time ago. I was going to their games, watching him getting buried a lot, and now all of a sudden he's one of the best coaches in the NFL many, many years later. And so this is the most difficult division to handicap because you can really make a case for all 4 teams to possibly win the division, but San Francisco and Seattle still the cream of the crop, still probably the 2 best teams in the NFL.
How do you think the NFC West will fare, not only against the AFC West, but against their non-division opponents? Do you think if you made a blind bet, say at the Open, of every NFC West team when they played a non-NFC West team, when they played outside its division, do you think we would make money this year?
I don't know. I don't think so because I think they're going to probably be favored in a lot of games. And with regards to you're going to have not only they're going to be probably a little bit overrated to the line, but I think the division, this kind of reminds me of the old NFC East in the early 90s when the Giants, Washington, and Dallas were constantly winning Super Bowls, and the Eagles ended up having the best defense out of all of them constantly. Those division battles were so tough and so draining that when the teams went out and played the non-division schedule, they were high favorites, and they had letdown situations because it was kind of like, well, we don't have to face like a tough team this week. And it's kind of like, taking a week off because there are some difficult schedules. And the 49ers, for example, I think they had the biggest letdown situation in the whole NFL. You look at them letdown games, them sandwich games, them so-called trap games that the media likes to call. But if you look at San Francisco's schedule, they have the Seattle Seahawks. They play them twice in 3 weeks. And between those two games against Seattle, they go on the road to play Oakland, who, again, is one of the worst teams in the NFL. And they have to go to play Oakland on a short week, a Bay Area rival where, Oakland's, the fans and the crowd is going to be jacked up for that game. And then you're going to put San Francisco in the middle of the Seattle sandwich, the team that knocked them out of the chance for the Super Bowl and probably the best rivalry going on the football. And that's going to be a huge trap game for the 49ers.
You're listening to the EOG Sports Hour. John Kelly with Ed the Statman talking NFL football. Let's cover the AFC East and AFC North. We also want to give time for Ed to lay out his plays for tomorrow, NFL preseason action. The Bears home to the Jags. Plus, he'll go on record with that regular season win total play in the AFC. To cover the AFC East quickly, Ed. New England, obviously the class of the division. They've won 5 straight division titles, 10 of the last 11. Rate or rank for me the other 3 teams: Dolphins, Jets, Bills. Do you have power ratings on these teams now, or how do you judge things in the preseason?
I don't really do any power ratings. I just kind of look and see who's the best teams by watching the games. I mean, obviously the Patriots are number one. They should win the East again. If I look at 2, 3, and 4, I would rate the Jets number 2 this year. I think year 2, Marty Morningwig, he's like one of those coaches that are pretty good offensive coordinator, and once he gets his pieces in place, he can put some points on the board. I'm not a big fan of Geno Smith. I actually think Michael Vick is the better quarterback. The problem is, even if Michael Vick starts, he don't last till game 6. So you're going to have, you're going to go with Geno Smith regardless. But I think the defense is a little bit better. I don't think they have a very difficult schedule. September, they open up with 3 of the first 4 games at home, so they can get a jump start on the division. They have a tough schedule in October. They have 3 games in 11 days against the Chargers, Broncos, and New England. But after that, they get most of the division games. They get 4 division games out of the final 6, so they can kind of make some hay, and they kind of control their own destiny with that, getting those 4 division games at the end of the year. As long as they can manage to win the games they're supposed to win early, I would call them the second best team. I would call the Miami Dolphins probably the 3rd best team in the NFL, and Buffalo is still the worst team in the NFL. E.J. Manuel, he should improve this year, and he does have a quality stable of running backs. Again, a couple key injuries already on the defensive side of the ball, and that's where they struggled last year. So, the Bills are still up and coming, but I don't think that Coach Marone is the answer there, especially coming in with not much NFL experience.
Yeah, he's a hard ass, and I don't think that'll play well, especially if they start losing again this season. The Bills franchise, they have not made the playoffs since 1999. Ed the Statman, who's the best team in the AFC North?
AFC North I have it as a coin flip right now between the Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think the Ravens will bounce back. They had a difficult year, and you kind of give them a bit of a pass from last year. Because they did lose Ray Lewis, who was the heart and soul of the organization for many years. They lost Ed Reed, and you just don't lose them locker room leaders and come out the following year and just play well, especially coming off the Super Bowl win. I remember here with Philadelphia when we lost Brian Dawkins. That leadership void is huge when it comes to keeping the locker room together and leading younger players. But I think that with that being said, that the Ravens are going to bounce back and have a pretty decent year this year. Again, pretty soft non-division schedules for the Ravens. I think they have like a 3rd place schedule. so they have a pretty soft schedule. The Pittsburgh Steelers, I think they're going to be back again this year. You can never count Mike Tomlin out. I think the most disappointing team in the NFL this year is going to be the Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati Bengals, they really lost two quality coordinators. I mean, Jay Gruden, he was the offensive coordinator who made Andy Dalton into a quality quarterback. I think with him gone, I think that's going to hurt their offense. And then they also lost Mike Zimmer, the defensive coordinator. He's now the head coach at Minnesota. And it's funny, Marvin Lewis was one of these coaches who's been around forever, but never really had consistency. He just seems like one of these coaches who just is only as good as his coordinators. When he has quality coordinators, he can make the playoffs. But when, the coordinators are raw or new like they are in this situation, I mean, he has Hugh Jackson, who was the former coach of the Raiders, running the offense, and Pierre Gunther, who's running the defense. Really not high-quality coordinators for them. So I think that the Bengals are going to be the most disappointing team in the NFL.
You're listening to the EOG Sports Hour. John Kelly with EdTheStatMan talking NFL football. We have two more divisions to cover, plus selections coming up in the final 10 minutes of the program. I mentioned the NFC West is the best division in football. Ed then said the AFC West might be the second best. Agree or disagree with the following, Ed? The AFC South is the weakest of the 8 divisions.
I don't totally agree. I think that here's the reason why. If you look at the bottom of that division last year was the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans finished with the 7th-ranked defense in the league. I think the Texans are going to have one of the better defenses in the NFL this year. I mean, not only were they the 7th-ranked defense last year, they get Cushing back from injury. They get Jadeveon Clowney from the NFL draft #1 overall pick from South Carolina, who is only going to make that defense a lot better. And now you're going to have him and J.J. Watt rushing off the ends. I mean, that's going to be a nightmare for any quarterback. You still have Arian Foster at running back position. You still have Andre Johnson at the wide receiver position. I think this is going to be one of the surprise teams. I mean, you can't really discount Bill O'Brien. This is an NFL guy. This is not a college guy. He came through the coaching ranks under Belichick with the Patriots. He went to Penn State, and, being from near Pennsylvania, he did one of the most incredible coaching jobs in college football history with that whole program and what that team had to deal with. And he put a competitive team out on the field, recruited a high-quality quarterback in Hackenberg. He knows football. He knows his offense. And this is going to be another one of those teams I'm going to keep my eye on when taking points early on in the season and also playing under. Fitzpatrick is going to start at quarterback. But again, with Arian Foster, this is going to be one of another grind-out teams. Run the football and play quality defense. And I think they're going to compete with the Indianapolis Colts. And they have a legitimate shot to contest for the playoffs this year.
If the AFC South, then, Ed, is not the weakest of the 8 divisions, which division would you dub the weakest?
I would dub the weakest as actually the NFC North. I think, the NFC North is Green Bay and a bunch of also-rans. I'm not sold on the Chicago Bears. The Detroit Lions definitely not sold on, and Minnesota is just going to be in for a big rebuilding year. So I think the NFC North, I would call that the weakest overall, with only one quality team, followed by the AFC East. Again, only one quality team in that division.
Mm-hmm. How can we quantify strength of division before the season starts? Can we use regular season win totals, add them up, and see where we sit? Would that be a good gauge? Or you say you like to watch the games, but is there any way we can power rate the divisions?
At this point, I actually like to look at kind of like where the teams fell in line last year with regards to their offensive production and defensive production, especially the defensive production, because that really helps a lot towards your overall team, and you can identify these teams that are going to be good on defense, and if they have the right coaching and are able to play offense the right way to be able to control the game, that would show a great improvement. So with regards to power rating the conferences, again, you're kind of looking at this year compared to last year, but then again, your 2014 strength of schedule is going to change between now and the end of the year. So when you get to the playoffs, when you start looking at the non-division matchups, it's a lot easier to power rate the conferences and handicap the playoffs than it is now. So I don't really have a good answer for you on that with regards to power rating them. I just kind of look at my analysis based on their schedules, what letdown spots they have, and who they're going up against in the early start of the season.
Let's step aside and take the final time out of the program. When we return, we'll go on record with 3 plays. I'll have a play in tomorrow's Dodgers-Braves matinee game in Atlanta. Ed will go on record with a play in tomorrow's NFL preseason game. Plus, he'll preview the AFC West for us. That's the only division we haven't touched on yet, and that's the division that presents his regular season win total prediction. It involves the Denver Broncos. We'll see if he's going over the win total on the Broncos or under the win total. You're listening to the EOG Sports Hour.
There's no such thing as a sure thing, unless you're talking about Ion Gaming. Ion Gaming is a website dedicated to the hearts and minds of sports bettors everywhere. If you're looking for smart, sophisticated sports handicapping information and insight,
Go to EOG.com.
if you're looking for the latest news on the ever-changing landscape of Nevada's race and sportsbook industry,
Go to EOG.com.
if you're looking for the most recent developments involving the worldwide sports betting scene with an emphasis on the leading sports books in San Jose, Costa Rica,
Go to EOG.com.
and finally, if you're looking to join an online community of sports gamblers where registration is free and the information is priceless,
Go to EOG.com.
you get the idea. Why gamble on other sports betting websites when Ion Gaming is a sure thing?
And I love a sure thing.
Hi, this is Rick Alec, president of Sports Options. Sports Options is a sports information tool designed to give sports bettors of all types the necessary edge needed to improve their bottom line. With Sports Options, you'll never lay a bad number again. We provide you with live odds from the leading sports books in the world, from Costa Rica to Curacao, London to Las Vegas, and everywhere in between. Sports Options also provides the fastest and most accurate injury information, lightning-quick score updates, and game analysis from 30-year handicapping veteran Mark Simons. We offer affordable services for players of all levels, starting at just $99 per month. To see which service best fits your needs, you can take advantage of our 7-day free trial. No credit card is needed. Just go to www.sportsoptions.com and click on the free trial link. I'm confident you'll be impressed with our product, and you'll find it the most complete and comprehensive on the market. In fact, if you don't like Sports Options after 30 days, we'll refund you 100% of your subscription costs, no questions asked. Go to sportsoptions.com for all the details or call 702-835-1743, and one of our friendly customer service representatives will be happy to help you. Sports Options, information you can bet on.
Time now for the JK Play of the Day. This is John Kelly's single strongest recommendation against the current numbers at the M Resort here in Las Vegas.
Got to make up for the loser last night. I had the Dodgers over the Braves. Atlanta defeated L.A. 3-2. Should have played that game under. I will play the under tomorrow in the Braves-Dodgers game, under the total of 7.5. I'll tell you why in a moment. Computer Bob, by the way, 2 plays, chop, but brilliant play on the Kansas City Royals. Jason Vargas spun a complete game 3-hitter. When that little lefty's on, he's tough. Bob's WNBA play, not so brilliant. We'll let him explain next Tuesday night when he joins us. He liked Phoenix over Atlanta, and there's a lot to talk about that game from a betting perspective, and we'll do it next Tuesday. My selection on under 7.5 in Atlanta involves the two pitchers, Aaron Harang and Roberto Hernandez. You remember who Roberto Hernandez was, the old Fausto Carmona, the disgraced major league pitcher who got in trouble with identity theft and changed his name and age, too. I think he claimed he was 3 years younger than he actually was. He's a Dominican who's in pretty good form right now. If you've watched him pitch lately, it's the old Fausto Carmona, who's the good, I should say the good Fausto, because there is a bad Fausto too. But Roberto Hernandez has really pitched lights out in his last 4 or 5 starts. Same with Aaron Harang. I like both guys. They're both big guys who throw heavy sinkers. They keep the ball on the infield. And for me, that's a must, being an under player. I'll take under 7.5. in the Dodgers-Braves game that goes tomorrow, a day game in Atlanta. Ed the Statman is our featured guest. He's got 2 plays to relate to us tonight. Let's finish up our division rundown. He still has to cover the AFC West, and in that division contains your best bet in terms of regular season win totals involving AFC teams.
Yeah, I look at the Denver Broncos here. First of all, the Broncos, they had the toughest schedule in the NFL from an opponent win percentage standpoint last year. They have probably the most difficult first half of the schedule in the NFL. You look at game number 1 and number 2, they open up with the home games against the Colts and the Chiefs, who are both playoff teams from last year. And they beat the Chiefs twice, so the Chiefs are going to come in with a little bit of double revenge here. And both those games last year were tight. They're 7-point games, and the Chiefs really were in both of those games last year. And then game number 3 is a Super Bowl rematch at Seattle. This is the Super Bowl rematch. Whenever you get one of these the following year, it's always the NFL game of the year. Playing in Seattle, pretty tough. They have the revenge there. Let's see, Seattle is they're tough at home, and that's going to be another difficult game. They follow that up with a bye week and then come home against the Cardinals, who also won 10 games last year. Follow that game up with a cross-country trip to the Jets, and come home to playing the 49ers and then again the Chargers twice in 4 days before going back across country with the New England Patriots, which is the first of 3 road games. And that's just their first 8 games of the season, which is just a brutal slate. And if they were to come out of that, probably, and I think that at this point, the best they come out of that is 5-3. But more than likely, maybe even 4-4. But if you look at their non-division opponents from this year, their Broncos, their high-powered offense, they were lighting up everybody. But if you look at their opponents from last year, 6 of their 10 non-division opponents finished the season ranked 18th or lower in total defense. This year, based on those numbers from 2013, 7 of their 10 non-division opponents are ranked 15th or higher, and they also face 4 teams this year who were ranked 6 or higher in defense last year. So this will be a good test for their offense, as they're going to play a lot better defenses this year than they did last year on the non-division slate. So my best regular season win total, the best one I've seen in a while, I'm going 2 units on this play, is to play it under 11.5. I have 11.5 under, and then minus at 117 in pocket. I think it's a little bit higher now. But even if you get this at 11, 11-5 would still end up being a push, and I think that's still a strong play even at 11.
Ed, about a minute remaining in the program. You have a play in tomorrow's NFL preseason game.
Yeah, I played this earlier in the week. I took Jacksonville +4. I think it's down to +3.5 right now. And one of my theories in the NFL is to, fade the home team off a home win. Most of these teams want to get that one preseason home win under their belts. The Bears had a big revenge game last week after getting totally embarrassed by the Eagles last year. They came back from behind, beat the Eagles, and now come here against the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are an up-and-coming team, and they also have a quality young quarterback in Blake Bortles. And I'm going to look to fade the high-scoring Bears in the second of back-to-back home games and take the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I told you he was both passionate and prepared. I like him. He's a good guy and a smart guy. Go to EdTheStatMan.com to check out what he has to offer at the website. You can follow him via Twitter at EdTheStatMan. For Ed Jones, I'm John Kelly. Thanks for listening to the EOG Sports Hour. Our conversation continues at EOG.com.